You're pregnant, but your husband's somewhere else.
My husband was still in and out at the same time when I got pregnant, but that 6 months, I had threw him out of the house. So he had him another girl. I went and got me 4 other guys.
The man right here is paternity court's MVP. This isn't his first time here, nor his second. It's his 3rd appearance in paternity court for different reasons with various women. Let's take a look at what happened during his first visit.
Ms. Reed, you are demanding that Ms. Austin have a paternity test administered on her child, whom she claims was fathered by your estranged husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
Imagine that. How do you get engaged to someone you have a baby with and still manage to find time for another girlfriend? What a guy. To top it off, Mr. Wallace wasn't even at the hospital while all this was going down. He wasn't there while his pregnant fiancée was giving birth to his baby. Setting that aside, let's look into why he was in paternity court for the 2nd time.
Now, it would be different if you were just a young man and you had let all these women know that, listen, I'm a dating man, I'm single, but you're not single.
I am.
You're not single.
What a turnout of events. Today, however, Mr. Wallace is in court today to prove that he is not the father of Ronald. Now, here's a little plot twist to get the court case going. Miss Austin tells the court that she's here to test the paternity of Ronald, but she's currently pregnant with her 3rd child for Mr. Wallace. Now, this man has been going back and forth with 2 women, as his current girlfriend is also pregnant right now. How does that even work?
Because let me just say something, because last time I talked to you on the phone, you know I called you one day. You sounded so happy. You said you had your kids and you all were having a great day. And I have been talking about you nonstop since then.
Now, the wild part of all this is the fact that they're here. If Mr. Wallace is obviously going back and forth between these 2 women, why does he have any doubt that baby Ronald is his? It's absolutely mind-numbing. You will not believe the answer that Mr. Wallace gave to the court.
Because she's very promiscuous. When we was together, I had installed, it was like spyware on her phone.
Every single thing about this man shows that he is a red flag. Everything. He could even be a psychopath. After installing the spyware into her phone, he got copies of her text messages and call logs sent to his email. He basically went full stalker mode on this woman. He claims that there were about 6 men she was on the phone with. Without any proof whatsoever, he adds that she slept with them all. What a guy.
Miss Austin, were you sleeping with these men?
No, lie detector me, please, right now.
How is you can't just be involved with all these different men without doing
Oh, I'm not you, just because you lay down with everybody who you talk to, because that's what you do.
You and the Lord know you a slut.
Well, oops. They went on bickering until Mr. Wallace eventually said he kept sleeping with Ms. Austin because she was easily accessible. Ms. Austin insisted that it was easy to access her because his current girlfriend, Ms. Roberts, allows him to. This led to a physical face-off between both women, led by Ms. Roberts. Unsurprising, she got removed from the courtroom. If Mr. Wallace didn't get both women pregnant for him at the same time, nobody would need to be here.
Actually, Raniel left his apartment and he moved with Kendra.
Just out of the blue, he woke up and said, I'm going to move with Miss Roberts
just
now?
go with
No.
her.
So what happened?
You would being promiscuous, and I'm not gonna tolerate that.
Great question from Judge Lake, very insightful. He goes on to say that although there are many glaringly similar features between him and Ronald, he has to judge Ms. Austin's behavior while they are together. He also has to consider the possibility of another man before he can consider the physical similarities between himself and baby Ronald.
You couldn't forgive her. You all couldn't work through this. Instead, you just went to stay with Miss Roberts.
And abandoned me and my children.
That's false.
The apartment that I have now is because I moved in because of Raniel. Because of Raniel. Raniel left me to go be with Ms. Roberts.
What an emotional situation this has suddenly become. If this man keeps putting these women through all this pain and turbulence, it's completely crazy that they stick to him and not let go. What could possibly be the reason? We get to know how Mr. Wallace feels about the entire situation. Hell breaks loose in court.
Agitated.
You feel agitated?
Yes.
Tell me.
Because of the bull crap performance she put on. Look, well, I need to walk out.
Let's sit here and finish it. Come on.
Raniel, don't walk out again. You can stand up here. Do not repeat the same mistake as last time.
The courtroom just got even hotter. If you thought Mr. Wallace was a psycho before, you definitely haven't seen anything yet. Mr. Wallace is escorted back into the courtroom after a short while, and Judge Lake tells him the much-needed truth. She is definitely not taking anybody's side, but only asking the needed questions. Now, after a long time, time. Let's move on to the results.
Mr. Wallace, you are Ronell's father. I want to get you all some help. I have joining me today via Skype a gentleman by the name of Mr. Wright. Now, he's a social worker in Chicago, your hometown, based right there.
This is not your regular case. Mrs. Miller and her daughter, Shanna Garnett, brought Mr. Langston to court today. They are so keen to prove that he's the father of Miss Garnett after 36 years. Both sides stand firm on their case and demand an apology from the other party for being lied to. Regardless, the potential father and daughter have a warm relationship, with Miss Garnett calling him her best friend. Mr. Langston, however, ripped the bandage right off a few months ago and let her know that he is not her real father, via text.
So after almost 2 years of reaching out to my father after visiting him in 2015, I was pleading to get him to respond. He wasn't responding.
They got distant for about 2 years, and Mr. Langston had something to say about that, stating the reason why they fell apart.
So why were you estranged for 2 years? What happened?
We live in different states, Your Honor, but we had always been close. I went to visit him in Chicago for a funeral. I was by his side for one of our family members.
This is where we see that father and daughter are so beautifully close. Though he did break the news to her so harshly, they really do love one another, it would seem.
Miss Garnett, you grew up as a daddy's girl. You say he's your best friend.
He's always been my dad. I've always known him to be my dad. When I became an adult, around 21 years old, that's when we started really becoming close. 2 years ago, when I was at the funeral with him.
All of this conviction on Mr. Langston's side raises the question, how is he so sure that Miss Garnett isn't his? What pushed him to paternity court and got him to hurt his little girl from all these years back? This is where he really spills the tea.
I came through the back. Her auntie downstairs let me in. I walked upstairs. I didn't knock on the door. I looked in. I see this guy sitting on the couch with her, like he running this game to get up on something. I knocked on the door.
And it seems like there's more going on than was let on. Suspicion is flying around about Mrs. Miller sleeping around, and this is what she has to say about it.
So, Ms. Miller, who is this cousin?
He was not my cousin. He was my sister's husband's cousin, and he was just a family friend as well.
Was he someone you were intimate with?
No, never.
Now things are getting spicy. The spotlight is no longer on the father-daughter relationship and is no longer shining ever so brightly on the mother. However, Mrs. Miller is not having any of it. She stands her ground, and the courtroom is hot like an oven top.
So, Mr. Langston, what other doubts do you have?
I gotta play cousin. She immediately told me, because I pressured her, did you do anything with him? She kept saying no. Then she came around. Okay, I'll tell you the truth.
Mr. Langston is not having any of it either. He backs his story up with more information and paints Mrs. Miller as a completely dishonest person.
She told me who been over there. And I said, yeah, what are you trying to do? He was trying to get some. I said, yeah, did you give him some? No, I didn't give him none. I said, hey, you know how I am. If you did it, you did it. No, I didn't do it.
Fire from Mrs. Miller doesn't cease as Mr. Langston claims that he can't remember even getting her pregnant in the first place. This gets a reaction from the court.
Ms. Miller, when you got pregnant, you knew he was the biological father?
I knew he was he was the only one I was sleeping with.
He knew, didn't he?
He the one told me he told me upon conceiving that I was pregnant.
Really?
Of course, it's suspicious that he'd be holding all of this back for so long. If he really thought she wasn't his, why wait 36 years to talk about it?
I paid child support not only 18 years, I paid it 20 years.
But when
they
did you
started
start?
sending me checks back for overpayment, $1,700, $800, $1,000, $500.
Miss Garrett has an emotional outburst about how hurt she was by her supposed father breaking the news to her and about how they have so much in common.
When he sent that text to me,
That's crushed.
I cried my hardest cry.
Oh, baby, don't do that.
I was devastated. I felt like he was taking my identity away from me because I've always known I was a Langston.
A grand plot twist was revealed after Miss Garnett posted on Facebook. She put up a picture of herself and Mr. Langston's father, her supposed grandfather, side by side, and the semblance is quite uncanny. Additionally, we get to see the depth of Mr. Langston's trust issues and a whole lot of background to this story. If he spilled the tea before, he definitely dropped the kettle kettle now.
Do you see the resemblance to your father?
Be honestly, I do. But it's a thing right here. My father put me out. She was helping me take care of my mama. She's a good person. I ain't gonna take that from her.
So what, Mr. Langston and Miss Garrett are supposedly half-siblings now. After a lot of ruckus, the results are revealed, and oh boy, is it a huge shock.
Mr. Langston, you are not the father.
Are not the father?
He is not her biological father.
Now don't look at me. Ask her who your daddy really is.
Next on the list, this case is between Aubrey James and Cody Woods, the potential father. James's 1-year-old daughter, Addison, is the primary reason for all the drama. James and Woods met over about 2 years ago via some mutual friends. Aubrey had an ex at the time who she had a very rocky relationship with. Regardless, the two hit it off quite nicely at a Valentine's Day party.
I seen her there and she was crying, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said her and her ex got into a fight because he didn't want to come. So I spent like 30 minutes trying to cheer her up, and then we left and we had sex 3 times, and she felt bad because she cheated on her boyfriend at the time.
What an interesting turn of events. 2 months later, Aubrey calls Woods right in the middle of work to break some interesting news to him.
So, Ms. James?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you use protection?
No.
So, when you found out you were pregnant, you immediately called Mr. Woods?
Yes, but I told him that he was not the father, that it could be somebody else.
You did. Mr. Woods, that's not what your testimony.
Isn't that the cutest thing? What a beautiful reaction to news about a baby. From here on out, Woods showed an overwhelming amount of support. We get to see how much of a kind-hearted person Cody truly is.
Once you found out you were having a baby, you started going to the doctor's appointments, what else did you do?
Outside, I started building a nursery, and I spent many nights with her when she was sick, throwing up.
It just keeps getting better. However, all of this is happening without an actual relationship between the two. Speaking of relationships, it brings up the important question: where is Aubrey's ex? What exactly happened with him? This is where we're introduced to just how much of a respectable man he is.
He did not want anything to do when I told him that I was pregnant, and it possibly could be his daughter.
The other guy?
Yes, Your Honor.
He didn't want anything to do with the baby?
No, yes, Your Honor.
What a guy. He really wanted absolutely nothing to do with any of this. He did not wait to find out if he was the father or not. However, with Aubrey's ex out of the picture, this happens next.
I got engaged to her.
You did?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you ask her?
Well, the only thing she could really keep down was chicken nuggets, so I took her to the restaurant, and I proposed to her with chicken nuggets, and I said I'd be one happy nugget if you'd marry me.
It's a popular belief that people should go out of their way with helicopters and diamond rings. Cody, on the other hand, gave the most intentional proposal that probably exists. This has to be the cutest thing. What a beautiful, cost-effective method. Not only is Cody Woods such a hopeless romantic, but he happens to be a great father too.
Deep down in my heart, I feel like she's my daughter. I mean, if she's not, it's gonna break my heart. I mean, I've been through everything. I love this girl to death. Like, for the past year, I've been there.
So for the past year, you've been there?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you are certain you slept with Ms. James?
What a nugget indeed. Unfortunately, everything seems to go downhill from here. Apparently, Aubrey knew that Cody had not been the father for quite a while. When she was asked about this, here is what ensued.
So, Ms. James, if you had these doubts, why did you allow Mr. Woods to sign the birth certificate?
Because he proposed to me, and he knew that it was right to propose to someone if he wanted to take responsibility of the child.
What an interesting thing to say. One could almost call Aubrey an entitled woman. It sounds as if she kept using him solely because he made himself available to her. Now, little Addison has a legal father as well as a biological father. What an interesting turn of events. If Aubrey knew he was not the biological father as she said she did, one would think she would just say so. Cody found out about this in the most dramatic manner as expected.
We was living together at the time, we was still engaged, and we got to a big fight, and I walked outside, and she came out with me, and that's when she said that Addison may not be mine, that could be her ex.
Why did you say that to him in that moment, Ms. James?
What a woman. They broke up afterward, but Cody did not make himself a stranger to Aubrey or little Addison. He supported them both in every way he could. Speaking of strangers, Aubrey had more to say about her ex, who she believes is the biological father of little Addison.
And so the other man, the man that really didn't want anything to do with her, that's the man you believe really is her biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been in touch with him?
No, Your Honor.
He's never seen her?
No, Your Honor.
Never
never laid eyes on her.
At this point, this man is the perfect picture of the best father. What a guy. He has no idea what little Addison looks like. Why then is Aubrey so hell-bent on letting Cody know that he should not be in the picture?
And I do not want Cody to pay child support. That's why I'm here.
Well, we don't see that a lot, Jerome.
I have one thing. Cody needs to also realize that he needs to take care of himself first before and get a job and a steady job.
Does this mean she is okay with being in a relationship with Cody primarily for the sake of little Addie? What does a civil family mean? After telling him to his face that he is not the biological father of her daughter, Aubrey is drawing up her own hypothetical contract stating that Cody is currently not catering to Addison properly. What a case! However, after the court did some digging, it turns out Aubrey has been posting cute pictures of father and daughter on social media. The following conversation ensues.
You seem to again acknowledge in November 2016 that he's your fiance and Addison's father.
Yes, Your Honor.
So even though you say you have from the beginning said he may not be her biological father.
What a confusing turn of events. It gets even worse. Here is Aubrey's plan after the court case is eventually over.
And you do understand that because he's on her birth certificate, he is her legal father.
Yes, Your Honor.
So if he's not the biological father, are you going to seek to have his name removed from her birth certificate?
Yes, Your Honor.
You are?
Yes.
After all the banter, the DNA results are revealed. The court is tense. It feels like everyone's on the edge of their seats.
Mr. Woods, you are not the father. I'm sorry for him and for you and for Addison.
What a twist! Woods simply could not take it. He needed to take a moment to get himself sorted. The case ended with him saying the most wholesome thing.
Jerome, will you please go and see if you can get Mr. Woods to return to the courtroom and check on him, please?
I will.
I'm going to see if we can get Mr. Woods to return to court.
You come back in, let's finish the case.
Yes, sir.
If you think you've seen drama in court, I can assure you that you have not seen anything yet. Usually, it takes two parents to biologically make a baby, right? Well, there are at least 3 parents on the table here. Mrs. Shaw, her daughter Kiona, and LeBron Matthews are in court for completely different things. Mrs. Shaw is here because she hopes Matthews is not Kiona's father. Kiona is here because she hopes Matthews is her father. Matthew is here because, oh well, he just got a new suit.
After the way that things went with
I
him.
see why you wore your little suit too now, Mr. Matthews. I said he's real ready for court, ain't he?
In these court cases, we hear situations about baby mamas and exes being in court together, but this time it's way different. The relationship between these two people that brought about Kiona is wilder than anything you've thought about, trust me.
I turned around and I looked at his wife. And
Did somebody say wife?
Yeah, they both were married.
So you, and you had a husband?
yes.
Yes.
Oh, so you came to court with your wife?
Correct.
No wonder you said you never had sex with this woman.
What a wild turn of events. It absolutely sounds like a plot from a TV show. Like that was not enough. Matthews explains the entire relationship further.
We both was having fun. We both was young, and when she told me she was pregnant, I was too busy trying to enjoy myself because I wasn't trying to be with no one woman. I already had a wife.
So the point is, when you stood in the courtroom with your wife and you said you never slept with Miss Shaw.
With so many men in her life growing up, Kiona felt like she never had a father, regardless. This one thing constantly made her sad and needy of fatherly love growing up. She described it perfectly here.
Being really uncomfortable, honestly. I felt like I was the stepchild. Like, the way that he was with his other kids, he wasn't like that with me. So I wanted him to feel the way he felt about his other kids about me.
I did, but I wasn't really there either.
Speaking of the men in Kiona's life growing up, her mother, Mrs. Shaw, did not hold back. She kept them coming.
He was not the only man that I had slept with.
Were you honest about that to Miss Thompson, your daughter?
Yes, she's known all her life.
It seems like these two go way back in time. Matthews goes on about everything that happened during their relationship and how he reacted to her being pregnant for him. It's a no-brainer that they even have a baby in the first place, really.
Because when she first told me that I was the dad, I didn't want to believe it because I was doing my own things. But every time I turned around, I was bringing you fish sandwich when you was pregnant. Every time you turned around, you was like, babe, I'm hungry. And at the time, you had a husband, and here it is. Wait a minute, okay, but you had threw him out.
If you think that's interesting, you will not see this coming. How exactly did a married man and a married woman have a baby for one another from an external party? Oh boy.
Well, wait, I want to understand this. So you're pregnant, but your husband's somewhere else.
Right. Because
And
see, that's how that came
your
about.
lover's coming over to feed you some fish sandwiches.
Because my husband was still in and out at the same time when I got pregnant. But that 6 months, I had threw him out of the house.
Oh boy, what a turn of events. She was not just cheating on her husband with one man, but 5 different men. After Kiona was born, it appears that Matthews lost his sweet spirit. Several scenarios point to him not doing up to the bare minimum. Inasmuch as the paternity of the little girl was uncertain, there was so much more to have done better.
When's the last time you saw Mr. Matthews?
I was a junior in high school, so it's been about 14 years.
Oh my goodness. So, Mr. Matthews, your testimony is true. You've been a pretty bad dad.
Yeah, I was a terrible father.
There's just too much drama unraveled in court with this case. However, taking the spotlight away from Matthews and to Mrs. Shaw's now late husband, Mr. Brooks, he announced that Kiona wasn't his, with just one gaze at her when she was born.
My grandmother, went over there and seen the baby because where Miss Shaw was living at the time, rumors fly around. First, my grandmother told my mother, then my mother told me, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna sit back there and say yes.
What did they say?
She said, well, the baby look like you. I said, no, it don't. I'm not gonna sit back because I didn't want my wife to know.
What a circus that really must have been. The DNA tests finally came in. Mrs. Shaw seems really opposed to the thought of Matthews being the father of her daughter and does not mind showing it. Matthews simply wants to redeem himself as a good father after all these years and seems interested in being a part of Kiona's life. What a shock the results caused.
Mr. Matthews, you are not the father. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Neither gentleman is her biological father.
She'll always be mine no matter what. I love her.
Was that something you had prepared yourself at all for, honey?
No.
I'm sorry.